Hello everyone, Clockyard here. Now I've seen guides for Sprocket come and go, mainly since they focus on the version-specific knowledge and, well, I've decided to try something a bit different. In this series of guides, I will go over each aspect of the in-game tank design process while relating it to the universally accepted concepts that fuel real-life tank design. These principles will help you as long as the game tries to simulate real life, so they should be helpful from update to update. My first guide is on the first thing that many of you will see when you start up the game, the hull. Now a lot of people will think of the hull as a big box to store all the fun, exploding, and squishy living bits of your mighty metal monstrosity, but there's just so much more to it than that. Tank hulls and turrets are more than just metal boxes. The first consideration you should have is for size. Depending on the size of your armament, engine, and crew count, you should make sure that you fill your tank up but not leave any extra space. Any space in the tank that isn't filled is just weight that can be shaved off by shrinking your vehicle, or room that can be filled to give it a higher ammo capacity, more range through more fuel, or even better crew accommodations. To leave empty space in your vehicle without a reason is to hamper your own design's capabilities. Now size also has multiple effects on mobility. A longer hull will need more road wheels, which will increase weight, but also has the added effect of adding more points of contact with the ground, which will reduce ground pressure. This reduction in ground pressure also equates to better grip on slopes. In other words, adding length will make you climb better, to a point. At a certain point, the vehicle just becomes too long and all the wheels don't make contact with the ground, and you will lose traction. Length also has a curious effect on being able to turn, at least when in relation to width. There's something known as the L over C rule, which basically states that if you have too thin of a tank for its length, it will not want to turn, but if you have too wide of a tank for its length, it will have trouble staying in a straight line. The easy way to figure out the proper ratio here is to look at real-life tanks, and try to make your vehicle's length to width ratios around the same. Not the T-35 though, that's one of the reasons we know about this rule. Okay, so now we know about how to size a vehicle, we know not to underfill or oversize, we know that size affects mobility. Well, now let's think about the obvious part, armor. It's the defining point of a tank in common parlance, a big phalanx ready to wade into enemy fire and blow up any resistance. But really, look at what you're going up against. Look at what you want to accomplish with the vehicle. If you're going to be up against things that can't get through 30mm of armor, maybe sticking 100mm on the front is overkill. If you have a design that will be used on flat ground and won't be jumping off ledges, maybe keeping the hull's belly thin would be smarter than making it weigh a ton. Build for the battlefield you will be fighting on, not the one you anticipate in the future. You can always tweak your designs for those fights. This isn't real life where we would have a limited budget. Sloped versus flat armor is always a consideration to make. By sloping surfaces, you increase the effective armor since the shots will go through at an angle, meaning that they have more material to get through. This also does come at the drawback of reducing internal space. Once again, build for the battlefield you'll be fighting on. If you need to keep your actual armor thickness down to save weight, angling would be a good way to do that. If you need to fit an extra 10 people in there because you're designing something that will help troops get to the battlefront, maybe keep the sloping down. That'll also help. The only wrong way to go about this is to design without thinking of the implications. Adapt to the situation. Rounded cast armor is a new addition to the game at this point. With rounded castings, armor thickness is not necessarily all one thickness throughout a single plate. It will thin out gradually where the set thicknesses are different. As any mathematician or physicist will tell you, a circle is the most efficient shape when it comes to volume for their surface area. This means that rounded quote-unquote cast armor in Sprocket will likely hold more and weigh less than any equivalent flat armor, but it does come with drawbacks. This gradual thinning means that certain points will be thinner than the initially assumed value. Also, since it's a rounded shape, it's never really angled to the point where there is no flat surface. There will always be a weak spot in the armor, dead center, facing the enemy. Much like flat versus angled, round armor has benefits and drawbacks. Put simply, no matter if you think flat is justice, or if you're a lover of thick curves. You're entitled to your preference, and there is no wrong choice. The right choice is the Centurion, though. It's always the Centurion. Anyway, I've distracted you enough. Hope you've learned something here today. See you next time.